Hello, I'm Jane Button. Tonight I'll bring you the story of more than 40 people in the Hunter Valley who've had their cars repossessed. The people bought their cars from large car dealers and many of them paid cash.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6. The setting could not be better. A sandstone-topped hill overlooking Brisbane waters. 12 sculptors from Australia and around the world are chipping away in a race against time to create something timeless as a gift to the people of Australia. 14 hours a day they'll be at it, punching these 8 to 10 ton slabs into shape. Sculptors from the Soviet Union, Mexico, Burma, Japan and Bulgaria. The 5 Australians include organiser Lawrence Beck and Bruce Copping, who were both part of the first symposium at nearby Wonderbine Quarry 12 months ago. In fact, the stone used this time comes from that same quarry. But why have these symposiums? Lawrence Beck.
Sculpture's been moribund in Australia for about a generation. When I was a student there were 10 sculptors working in Australia. Now there's one, who's Stephen Walker in Tasmania. And it's attempting to show Australians what can be done in a three-dimensional sense so that a sort of renaissance of sculpture can occur, because Australia lacks that every time you come back from overseas, and there's this society which physically is very well off, but there's an incredible lack of communication between Australians. They're very, very lonely people because they don't have things like this.
The public was welcome at today's launch by State Youth and Community Services Minister John Aquilina, who explained the site will eventually be landscaped to form a valuable public access park. And as well, the exercise will help the young inmates at Mount Penang.
Well, obviously it'll give the young offenders here an opportunity to see a different lifestyle from the one they're used to. I'm sure as they look up at these stones up on the hill turning into magnificent works of art, they'll get an opportunity to see what talents put into a worthwhile and a positive direction can produce.
Will they be helping in any practical way?
Troy Close of Western bought this shining gold Ford Falcon almost 12 months ago from one of the most established dealers in the Hunter Valley, Highway Ford at Rutherford. Although he initially took out finance, he paid off his vehicle in cash a few months later. So you can imagine his surprise when 2 repossession agents arrived on his doorstep yesterday to tell him that he was in possession of an encumbered vehicle. Troy was not alone. The agents were out looking for about 30 vehicles in the Hunter Valley. In some cases, police were called, but they backed up that the repossession agents had a legitimate case. The bulk of the cars had been bought from Highway Ford, which had bought them from a company called Hunter Valley Car Rentals. Ken Guy from Highway Ford is most adamant that they had absolutely no idea that the finance was owing on the vehicles. Today, a search was done with the Registrar of Encumbered Vehicles, but most of them still came up as unencumbered or with money owing by their present owners.
It's just a normal business process. The rent-a-car people, they buy cars off of us and then we buy the cars off them, pay them for it, which all these vehicles involved, the complaints that you've had, we've actually paid and bought those vehicles in good faith and sold them in good faith. The whole lot of people buying them are protected under the law because they've then got a statutory warranty provisions that of course also Consumers Affairs looks after them in the event that the dealer's unable to meet their payments.
When you trace the issue back, all paths lead to here, to Brian Forwell, a Hertz licensee who operates Hunter Valley Car Rentals. Mr. Forwell was asked if he had any comment about what has happened. He said no and referred me on to his solicitor. Unfortunately, his solicitor also had no comment. But the issue goes much further than the encumbered vehicles. It calls into question the whole REV system. According to the Department of Consumer Affairs, it's not compulsory for a finance company to register an encumbered vehicle with REVs. But if they don't have the right of repossession. Hertz claims not to have repossessed any vehicles which shows unencumbered on the REVs register, but there is confusion on this point. Late today, the Department of Consumer Affairs said that there would be no further repossessions until a meeting with Hertz tomorrow.
The Residential Management Training Centre is being funded by the Building Services Corporation to help overcome a serious shortage of trained supervisors in the building industry. All the people attending the course will be working builders, so the centre will provide motel-style accommodation while they undergo intensive training with a minimum of interruption to their careers. This provides a golden opportunity for students at Hamilton TAFE. They will move into the 30-unit motel as full-time staff, cooking, catering, cleaning and managing the facility in the most realistic training course available anywhere in Australia. The centre was jointly announced by Small Business Minister Deidre Gruzovan and Education Minister Rod Cavalier.
It's the first TAFE facility to operate 52 weeks a year, every day of the year. It will mean that you will have the fine edge not only of building skills development here in the Hunter, but hotel management.
Work will begin on the centre on this site on Union Street towards the end of the year. The facility should be running within 9 months of the start of construction.
Ken, the Falcons were off to a good start, probably the best start they've had for a while. What happened on Saturday night?
I think we got caught out by maybe the best individual performance that I've seen in the National Basketball League. So it's hard to work out whether we got rolled over by a team that was superior or whether one player had such a freak night that it interrupted everything else we did. I tend to think that's what happened.
How did you feel about sitting back and watching the Adelaide 36ers, your old team, playing your new team?
Well, I felt that they were impressive, and because I know all the guys inside out, and I just feel that we'll beat that team. There will be a time, hopefully this season, that we'll beat that team. But it gave us a good insight as to where we've got to reach.
Well, this weekend the Falcons are heading off to Melbourne.
Yeah, two very, very important games for us because Newcastle has been poor on the road now for quite a few years, and if you're going to make the finals of the National League, I think you've got to be able to win. I'm figuring at least 6 games on the road, and these two are vital to us. If we could win these two and come back here 3-1, I'd say we'll be in equal first or second position still in the league at that stage. So that'd be tremendous for us.
The long-running dispute in the ranks of the Northern New South Wales Soccer Federation is about to be resolved once and for all. The trouble surfaced early last year when the former Northern New South Wales Amateur Soccer Federation withdrew its affiliation from the governing body, the Northern State Soccer Federation. According to its president David Williams, the split breaches the constitution of the Australian Soccer Federation and will affect hundreds of junior soccer clubs from the Hawkesbury River to the Queensland border.
And if it's allowed to continue, it opens up all sorts of avenues for other organisations to do exactly as they please without any repercussions.
Because of their action, just how are young local stars going to be affected?
Well, technically, those that are affiliated with the amateur group, which is now the northern branch of the New South Wales Amateur Soccer Federation, are not able to represent at state level, nor are they able to go on and represent at national level.
It's a complicated issue which the state president says must be resolved within the next 2 weeks. The deadline before the Northern Federation will form a new league which will be regarded as the only official junior association for the 26,000 young players across the northern region.
So what state is the Young Junior League in?
Well, it's in quite disarray at the moment, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are hoping that something will be done very soon to try and sort it out.
All eyes were on Centre Ring last night as hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of musicians and musical instruments took the spotlight. The Mammoth production was coordinated by Sue Donnelly, and the music, a medley of Australia's best love songs, was directed and conducted by Peter Boyes, with more than 20 helpers. With a cast of thousands gathered from throughout the Hunter and North Coast regions, last night's performance was only a warm-up.
We just upped the numbers tonight to see if it'll work. Got a few little bits of sound difficulties we have to overcome, but the guys are working on that tonight, and it'll be fabulous again on Friday night. It's a buzz. Didn't you see the parents and the people going mad in the stand there, and all the little bubbies out here? It's terrific to see them. You know, little kids, 7 and 8 year olds playing instruments. Fabulous. It's only happened in Newcastle, of course.
Officers will not return to work until tomorrow morning at the earliest, but Union Representative Barry Reinhardt says he's confident a meeting shortly before 8 a.m. will vote for an end to the strike. Mr Reinhardt says officers are concerned that the public doesn't get the impression the strike is an attempt to hinder a legal inquiry into alleged assaults at the jail involving 2 officers. He says the men are merely anxious to have a clear understanding of their legal rights during the inquiry.
From our point of view, the reasons for the strike are that there was a lot of doubt in the minds of the officers as to how investigations should be proceeded with, and that created, we felt, unnecessary stress on the officers.
An assurance given by the Corrective Services Department today to review the investigation procedure is expected to resolve the dispute. The jail will continue to be staffed by New South Wales Police until the prison officers go back to work. The lights of the sideshow fun rides were eclipsed by a glittering cavalcade provided by the Newcastle MG Sports Car Club to carry all 27 entrants to the stage where they were presented to the crowd. The young women were judged last week, and the anxiety of those last few moments was mercifully brief. First, the runner-up.
And Hatsuka.
Then the announcement all were waiting to hear.
Keep running, guys. Haven't got it open yet. Lisa Withers, Miss Newcastle Showgirl, 1988. Lisa Withers.
Judges say Lisa, a university student from a property near Tamworth, was a unanimous choice, a sincere, natural and typically Australian country girl.
I'm just so ecstatic, you know, like, I mean, I'd sort of worked out in my own mind who had won. It's just a great honour to be here.
While Lisa planned her South Pacific cruise, the Marching Koalas provided a fittingly exciting close to the occasion. Lisa will be one of 22 contestants in his own finals of the Land Royal Easter Showgirl contest here at Newcastle on March the 5th.
Conditions were stifling for today's opener in the State League. In 31-degree heat, Newcastle was expected to be an easy winner, as Polonia had only just been promoted to the State First Division. Newcastle Austral scored the first goal of the match in only the 6th minute, when David Jones kicked a beautiful cross for Robert Virgili to head in. Just before the half-time break, Newcastle keeper Craig Carter makes his first brilliant save of the match. Only 60 seconds later, Carter made another amazing save. Newcastle still lead 1-0, but could have been trailing except for the individual brilliance of the 18-year-old goalie. 15 minutes from time, and Polonia tied the game up 1-1 through the boot of Jandudu. Polonia then had another chance to take the lead, but Carter again saved the day. But finally, Newcastle cracked under the pressure from Polonia, with Warren Dalton scoring to give the visitors a deserved 2-1 win. The new boat is state-of-the-art in surf lifesaving. The $9,000 price tag was footed by sponsors, including Commercial Industries, Patrick Stevedoring, Industrial Switchgear and Newcastle businessman Ron Jager. On hand to officially launch it was Lois Lang, the wife of the Managing Director of Industrial Switchgear. The vessel was named after former club president Reginald Parkinson, who passed away 3 years ago. He started with the club in 1934, devoting his life to the sport. Before his death, he was made a life member of the Dixon Park Club and the Newcastle branch. Dixon Park is hoping the new boat can change the bad fortune the club has been experiencing in surf boat races in the past. The crew have been training non-stop since Easter last year, and with the new surf boat are hoping to put up good showings in the coming New South Wales and Australian championships. Sydney football came to Newcastle today in a big way, with almost 20,000 people packing the ISC for the annual Newcastle Herald Challenge. It's the first time a match has been played at the ground since it was redeveloped for rugby league. Newcastle, with the support of the huge crowd, put the first points on the board through a penalty by Robert Chew in the first minute. 5 minutes later, Owen Cunningham scores an easy try for the Sea Eagles through some weak defence from the Knights. O'Connor converts and Manly race to a 6-2 lead. In the 15th minute, Robert Chew adds another 2 points. Manly leads 6-4. Chew's in the action again just 5 minutes later. He grubber kicks on the 5th tackle, and prop Tony Townsend wins the race to the ball. Chew converts, and the Knights now lead 10-6. At that stage, Newcastle was playing like they had been in the Sydney competition for years, matching it with Manly in every department. The Knights were in again only 15 minutes from the break through fullback Glenn Frendo. Chew again converts, and Newcastle had run away with the game, leading 16-6. The Knights then put the first half beyond doubt as Glenn Miller burst through to score Newcastle's 3rd try. Chew then kicks his 5th goal from as many attempts, and the locals go to the break, leading 22-6.
As angry parents gathered with their children in the local park, lessons at Redhead Public School carried on as normal, even though only a handful of students were marked off at roll call. The dispute with the school's P&C Association and the Education Department began early this year, when the number of students enrolled at the primary school shrank from 211 to 205. The slight drop-off meant the loss of a teacher and the formation of a new Year 1 class, with 44 students under the care of one teacher and a resource assistant. Parents say they are concerned about the adequate education of their children, particularly when departmental policy recommends a teacher-student ratio of 1 to 30. Today, parents were told that the Newcastle Council of P&Cs would appeal to its state council to lobby Education Minister Rod Cavalier. Regional Director of Education Alan Beard says the action by Redhead parents to withdraw their children was unreasonable and unfair on the students. He said the problem at Redhead was not uncommon and that at least 20 other regional schools were also affected by stringent cut-off policies. The need to change the existing staffing formula has been a long-running issue with the Teachers Federation. Regional organiser Barry Johnson said that while the Federation supported the parents' protest, the government had no immediate plans to change the rigid structure, but said the matter had all the potential to spark a major campaign, one that would have the support of hundreds of parents.
Today is probably the dramatic step to try and really focus on the matter because we haven't had a response from our previous attempts.
Ray Lawler's classic is perhaps one of Australia's best-loved theatre productions. Set in Melbourne, the play follows the return of Barney and Roo during the annual layoff season from the sugarcane fields of northern Queensland. As times change, so do people. For 17 years, the private world of Olive, Roo and Barney has stayed intact, with a doll to mark each annual visit. It's a world about to fall apart.
It's quite dramatic. I mean, the people in this play are bold, they're strong. It's a play with a lot of passion.
Bill Charlton plays the leading role of Roo, a rough, tough character who discovers the years are turning against him. Although it's a play with universal appeal, it's distinctly Australian.
The outdoor cane cutter, a man who works with his hands, a man who's lacking in pretension, but he's poetic, he's romantic. And there's a lot of poetry in the rougher side of this country, and Lawler was able to see it and put it on stage in this play.
Yesterday afternoon, it appeared that tanker drivers in Newcastle had responded to the call to return to work and deliveries would be made. But later in the day, it became apparent that an ongoing Storeman and Packers strike was preventing any petrol from flowing out of Shell and Adelaide terminals. Even if the dispute is resolved, it will be some days before stocks can be built up again. Just the report that the drivers would be back on the job led to a reduction in demand, with retail outlets saying panic buying ceased almost immediately. Yesterday, service stations were jam-packed with people eager to take up their legal option for $10 worth of petrol in an old-funded car.
For several days, the southern end of King Edward Park has been slowly changing. Light towers, speakers and the largest outdoor stage ever built in Newcastle has transformed the picnic spot into an enormous concert arena. This afternoon, workers were making final adjustments to equipment in preparation for tonight's $200,000 music extravaganza. Newcastle is one of only 3 centres in the state chosen to host the Bicentennial concert, which New South Wales Director of Bicentennial Events, Stephen Hall, says will be a highlight of the year.
This will be the biggest one to date because we brought up the entire Sydney Symphony Orchestra, even a few augmenting players, big staff to help put it on, massive amount of electrical equipment and lighting equipment, and we plan to give Newcastle the best concert that it's heard for many years.
So are the artists something special for Newcastle as well?
Well, they're very special anywhere because you have a combination of Roger Woodward, who's perhaps our greatest pianist, Joan Carden, arguably our greatest soprano. Like, how can I say that in the company of Rita Hunter, who's also a very great soprano, and Ken Collins, a very great tenor, and the entire complement conducted by William Reid.
Although the concert doesn't begin until 8 o'clock, a dedicated few were already commandeering prime positions this afternoon. According to Stephen Hall, tonight's program will be well worth the wait.
We're going to repeat the marvellous overture on colonial themes, which was played on January the 26th in Sydney to bring the first fleet into Farm Cove. And it's a very fine piece of writing by an Australian composer, Douglas Gamley. Then there are excerpts from various operas that all of these singers excel in. Of course, Roger Woodward is playing the Rachmaninoff Rhapsody on the theme of Paganini, and to close the whole thing there'll be a very spectacular fireworks display.
So it's going to be a highly...